There we go. I got it on. Let's go ahead and stand. We'll pray, and then we'll be doing the pledge as we do that. Father God, we just come before you. We realize everything that we do wraps around what you've created, and you've created us. You love us, care for us. We thank you for an incredible Thanksgiving. And we're grateful for what you have given us, and we need to be grateful for that. We look forward ahead to the days to come as we come into Christmas, and I pray tonight you'll be with these commissioners as we start this meeting tonight, and we focus in on you needing your help. We need those moments of divine intervention, and so we thank you for that. Be with us now as we move on, and we do this all in your Son's name, Jesus. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Good job.
I think before we call the commission meeting to order, we'll do the administration of the oath of office for the elected commissioners and other elected officials. Your Honor.
Commissioner Bakken and Commissioner Bittner, please stand. Raise your right hands. I state your name.
I, Brian
Steve
Bittner,
Bakken,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of North Dakota,
and the Constitution of the State of North Dakota,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of County Commissioner
of the office of County Commissioner
in the County of Burley,
in the County of Burley,
State of North Dakota,
State of North Dakota,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Okay, where are you supposed to sign it here? Just any old place? Okay, I'll call the December 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Burley County Commission to order. First item is the roll call of members.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Here.
Commissioner Munson.
Here.
Commissioner Bakken.
Here.
Commissioner Schwab.
Here.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, here. Next item is the approval of the agenda. I'm going to make a couple changes and some additions. First of all, I'm going to eliminate item 7A, which is a Q1 2024 investment report clarification. We're waiting on additional information from Finance Director and the Assistant Finance Director, and when that becomes available, we'll take that subject up. The CO2 issue further on down the line, because we know a number of the people in the audience are here for that. I want to move that up from 14 up to under consent agenda. And then we're going to add investigation report. And I think we'll add that under 13, where the formal grievance discussion is held. And then Commissioner Bakken asked for an item for human services appointments at the request of Chelsea, and we'll put that under other business. Is there any other changes that anybody wants to see?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. The next item is consideration of the November 18th, 2024 meeting minutes and bills. Commissioners?
I did the bills as far as I could see. They seemed like they were in order. However, the minutes, the last paragraph of the minutes, give a location of that bridge we discussed, and it's pretty far off.
Okay.
It is on 236th Street, 3 miles south to Lincoln Road, and then a quarter of a mile further south from Lincoln Road is the bridge we're talking about. Here it's got it that it's a quarter mile south of McKenzie, and that is incorrect.
So you'd like it to say how far south of McKenzie?
Well, it's 3.25 miles south, across Lincoln Road, south of Lincoln Road, would be adequate to correct that. So if that's okay, we're going to correct it. I move to approve.
Okay. And the bills as well.
Yes, both.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda. Abatements. Anybody want to have any conversation on that, or seeing none?
Move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is item 14. We're moving it up there, and that's the CO2 pipeline discussion. I think part of that will include probably some discussion regarding possible appeal. Are you prepared to discuss any of that?
No,
Or is
because
that-
that likely, since we're talking about litigation, should be done in executive session.
Okay.
You did not notice an executive session, so therefore you can't hold one tonight.
Okay.
So you might want to do a special meeting on that, so that
Okay.
it can be discussed as soon as possible, because we do have a deadline looming.
Right.
But that would be my suggestion, is to hold a special
Perfect,
meeting on that.
perfect. Commissioners, do you have any preference on any particular dates for a potential special meeting of the Burley County Commission to discuss litigation?
What would Wednesday look like this week?
Be okay with me?
What day?
Wednesday?
Wednesday?
I've got an 8 o'clock, but 8 till 9:30 or so.
So if we did
So-
11 or,
Yeah. Should we
One.
That'd be
do it
fine.
right before lunch? 11?
I do have a lunch engagement that day.
okay, how about after lunch?
10:30? Would it be possible before? Just a little earlier?
10.
10:30 is fine.
10 or
10:30
10:30?
is fine.
Is that enough time? Do you have any idea how much information we're going to be receiving?
I do not at this point,
Okay.
and so 10 o'clock would probably be good, because if I need to end by a time, let me
Okay.
turn on my microphone. 10 o'clock is probably good, because if we need to end by a time certain, we can always meet again as well.
Okay, so we'll schedule a special Burley County Commission meeting for Wednesday at 10 a.m.
And the item to be discussed will be,
Potential litigation and appeal of the CO2 permit.
And location for that meeting? Will be upstairs?
We'll plan for the upstairs meeting room unless it's occupied already. We'll have to have, staff will have to check the schedule on the room.
And just one other question, is there any representative of Summit Carbon Solutions here? A representative for Summit? There is not, thank you.
Okay, so
Well, I
additional
have a
discussion.
question there. Does
Commissioner
Summit have
Schwab.
to be notified of this meeting?
Pardon me?
Does Summit have to be notified of this meeting?
No.
it's an executive
Everyone needs to
session.
be notified of the meeting, like if you're having a meeting, we have to do a public notice of it. But we're going to be doing executive session. I'm giving the lawful authority for that. That'll be in the notice as well. So yes, it's got to be a public notice, though.
All right.
So essentially, there's not going to be a need for the public to attend because it will be an executive session,
Right.
unless you want to attend and hear,
But we have to open in public.
Yeah.
right? You know, you're welcome to attend, but we're going to go right into an executive session, so. Commissioner Schwab, you want to, any additional discussion?
Yes? What?
I didn't say nothing.
Do we have a motion here?
No,
Okay.
no, we're just seeing if
Setting
they,
the meeting.
you want to have any additional CO2 discussion?
Well, the only thing that I want to bring up is it appears now that outfit Summit is in a big feud that blew up with the DAPL pipeline. I believe Transfer Partners owns that. They kind of will not communicate and think they can cross their easements where the oil pipeline is buried. I mean, you know, I think there was something like 10 or 12 points that have to be clarified according to DAPL or Transfer Partners. But I find it amazing that they think that they have the run of the country up here. But we know why they do, because the state is supporting them. However, we're going to have the same problem too, because they're going to be going across MDU lines, et cetera, They never. I kind of reviewed some of the meetings and stuff. Can anybody tell me one question that we put to them when they decided to show up and they answered? Not a one. So it goes to show you, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's a gang of thugs run by the elites to do their dirty work so that they can enrich themselves, and that's all I got to say tonight
Okay.
before I get mad.
Okay, since there's a lot of folks in the audience that were here for that issue, does anybody wish to speak on that? Going once, does anybody wish to speak? I know who you are, but just identify yourself for the record, please.
Can I set up this machine here? Because I have two exhibits like
Yes,
this. If I
you
could.
can.
Okay, let me get out my notes.
By the way, while we're waiting, you know, we've been kind of lax on our terminology with these guys. We begged for that plume. I suggested that they put a dye in so if there's a leak. So now it's no longer to me if they get a leak, it's no longer a plume because you're not going to see it. It's a kill zone. I just want everybody to know if it leaks, it's a kill zone. It kills everything. Everything that crawls, walks, flies. So I think our terminology needs a change on this thing.
Okay, go ahead. For the record, state your name.
I'm Jeff Jennings. Just to give a little background, I have a degree in geological engineering and a master's in economics. Been working in the oil field since 1981, most of the time up here in North Dakota in the Williston Basin. And I just kind of wanted to bring some information for the commission to consider. It doesn't specifically confine to Burley, but it is the pipeline, and it's where they're actually going to be disposing of this stuff. And I think it's good to know information because it kind of leads back to the whole problem with Summit Carbon and how they, quite frankly, they're acting reckless and incompetent, in my opinion. And this is just one more case where they're doing it. So if I could have the first exhibit up here.
You're on.
Okay, let me see. Okay, this is a map showing the Summit Carbon sequestration area. There's a number of things on here to look at. The yellow highlighted wells, Summit Carbon drills some stratigraphic test wells, and the stratigraphic well, if you're not familiar with it, basically it's a well for science. It's not a, yeah, that'll work pretty good if you, there you go. And essentially what Summit did is they drilled these wells to collect information. They ran a bunch of cores down there, collected pressure data, other things, and using that data, they determined that the Broom Creek Formation, which is a submember of the Minaloosa, would be ideal for injection. So, and I agree, this probably is a good one for injection. And the three tests or strat tests are the there's two in the north there, the yellow one, the Archie Erickson 2, the Slash Lazy H5. Those ones were drilled down into and through the Broom Creek. And then the well to the south, the Milton Plummer, that actually was taken all the way down to the Precambrian basement. So we're all the way into the granite, all the way through all the sediments. So they did a fairly significant job at least collecting information on there. The blue highlighted wells, those are their projected areas for permits. They have 6 permitted wells. They're in couplets of 2. Each one of those blue circles represents 2 permitted wells. Now, I looked at the permits, and they're held confidential, so I have no idea other than the location and the name of them. My speculation is they're going to drill 2 deviated holes off of there so they can spread the CO2 out over a wider area, but that's just speculation on my part, but it sounds reasonable. And around each one of those blue circles, you'll see that black circle. That I obtained from the commission hearing they held with the Oil and Gas Commission back in the spring, and that represents approximately where they believe all the CO2 is going to be contained. That's the injection area. Now, the other wells on there, there's the rose highlighted wells. Those are the legacy wells. These are the wells that have been existing in this area for a long time. As you might imagine, just looking at the number of wells on this map, there's been quite a bit of exploration activity in here looking for oil and gas. And nothing has actually ever been found, so it's a non-productive area. It's pretty much proven that it's devoid of any economic oil and gas. So within that, there's a 20-mile radius line there. That outside dashed line represents 20 miles, and within there I count about 17 legacy wells that existed before any of the stuff that Summit Carmit ever did. Now, under current regulations, if you drill a well out here, you have to run a minimum of 2,000 feet of surface casing, and that's to protect the aquifers. Well, to the west of the area that they're planning injection is the Fritz Lutz 1. It's well file number 21. That means it was the 21st well permitted in North Dakota. And that was back in 1950. And that has 493 feet of surface casing in it, TD down in the Canberra Division Deadwood. Off to the northeast side up there is the R. Jensen 134. That one only has 330 feet of surface casing. And there's another well just to the east, the Henke, 678 feet of surface casing. So now we have wells here in this area that do not have the minimum required surface casing. And now we have to speculate as to what the potential for those wells to leak. So when they inject into this area, according to what they testified at, they're going to be raising the pressure within the Broom Creek by another 1,000 PSI. Currently, it's at 3,000, so they're going to raise it up to 4,000 PSI. Now, if you don't have any of these wells that are leaking or have been properly plugged, that's not a problem. It's just going to raise the pressure in there. It's just like increasing pressure in an air tank. But if any of those wells aren't sufficiently plugged, they're going to form a pressure sink, and fluid is going to start flowing towards them. And that fluid is going to be primarily salt water. The Broom Creek the formation water is very salty, and it's going to enter into those well bores, like I said, if they're not plugged properly, and you're going to be seeing fluid formation downhole, uphole, and possibly injecting out of zone. And one thing the NDIC does not want to see is injection out of zone. But my immediate concern, like I said, the salt water is my immediate concern. The immediate concern wouldn't be the CO2. That could come later, though. But you're going to be moving salt water, and if you get salt water up into the aquifers, well, I don't know. I think you've got a problem. And it's going to involve, the EPA is going to get involved, and whenever the EPA gets involved, there's nothing good about that. Now, the second exhibit I'd like to show is a wellbore schematic of that Fritz Lutz well, which is located right here. Like I said, this well was drilled in 1950, and while it was being plugged in 1950, the Clarence Iverson #1 well up there southwest of Tioga was in the process of being drilled. Now, if people that know about oil business, the Clarence Iverson was a discovery well for oil in North Dakota. This well dates from the time of the very first oil production. Now, this one was non-productive. It was plugged as a non-producing well. It was plugged in October of 1950. And the file number on this one is 21. I got the 21st well. The Clarence Iverson was file number 25. It's only about 4 wells later. Okay, in addition to the surface cement plug, there's 4 deeper plugs in there. Now, these plugs are approaching 75 years in age. And I have no idea the competency of these plugs. In 75 years, who knows what's happened to them. The other thing is, in my 40-plus years of oil, in the oil business, I've washed down 2 wells. Now, a wash down is where you enter a plugged and abandoned well, you drill out all the cement plugs, run casing, and then complete it, hopefully as a producing well. And in both cases, we successfully did that because we were part of it was part of in a water flood area, so we knew we'd pressured up the formation, and they made good candidates for it. Well, the one well we washed down, all the plugs were there as reported on the plugging report. Drilled through all of them, no problem. The other well, however, we drilled a surface plug, and we sickled all the way to the bottom, and we didn't touch so much as a shred of cement. Basically, those plugs existed only on paper. This well was plugged in 1950. What are the odds that those plugs were never placed? I have no idea. The only way you're going to find out is you have to re-enter that well and wash it down and check where those plugs are at. And over the years, undoubtedly, there have been a lot of wells in North Dakota that were unfortunately plugged like this. We've had some bad actors, which I'm not happy about, but it's what happens. And there's no way of knowing what well has been plugged properly and what well hasn't. We have 17 wells within 20 miles of this injection area. The chances of one of them not having been plugged properly is actually pretty high. And you start injecting out a zone, like I said, that's not a happy experience. And also, like I said, reported there's a number of wells in there that don't have that 2,000 foot of surface casing. The other problem is if you don't have that thing plugged properly, like this well here, if it comes out of the Broom Creek, starts going up hole, you don't have a lot of surface casing up there, you can get channeling behind that casing. It could easily get in contact with the near surface aquifers. Now you're injecting salt water into the aquifers. Just a couple of final comments on here. As you have been doing, I've been following Summit Carbon throughout this various hearings, and I tell you, I'm not very impressed. The original pipeline route apparently crossed a fair number of landslide areas, requiring it to be relocated. At the first meeting, when asked about the prevailing wind direction in Bismarck, they drew a complete blank. Obviously, they didn't use any local engineering talent, which was a big mistake. They seem to have very little concern with the potential dangerous CO2 pipeline near a major metropolitan area. And why on earth did they pick this area to inject CO2 into? Couldn't they have found a better area with less legacy wells that didn't have any problems? It took me less than 10, 15 minutes to find all these wells that had problems. Certainly somebody could have done that real quick, and they didn't. I'm wondering if, was this area picked because of political considerations versus technical? And one final comment. You know, there's a good reason that we don't hand loaded pistols to 5-year-olds. Summit Carbon is an ag company trying to build and operate a high-pressure pipeline. They're also an ag company which wants to drill disposal wells in an area which I consider to be marginal. It appears to me Summit Carbon is that 5-year-old with the loaded pistol, and we're being told not to worry, that good things are going to happen. So that's my comment on this.
Great presentation. Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to share that with us. Sure, why not? State your name for the record, please.
Curtis Junt, Chair Bittner, Commissioners. Jeff, thank you for that presentation. You and I have spent hours on the phone. We both have the same passion when it comes to oil and natural gas drilling. One thing to add to the concerns, let's say that those plugs are there 75 years ago in that well. You're going to be making contact with 4,000 PSI pressure of salt water and CO2, which makes carbonic acid. Those plugs are limestone plugs, so carbonic acid not only eats through carbon steel, but it doesn't take long and it'll eat right through the limestone plug. So I see a time, I can prognosticate that there may come a time if what you heard from Jeff isn't mitigated somehow by this company. I see a time when certain folks out there are going to, in that 300,000 acres, are going to open up their faucets and have seltzer water coming out. And that'll be the end of irrigation and drinking water, and like Jeff said, in comes the EPA. But, so that's northwest of Bismarck. We've been here with you as a commission concerned about this 24-inch pipeline that they decided to wrap around Bismarck. And like Jeff said, without any cognitive ability to ascertain our prevailing winds, which from now until spring are going to be northwest, north, and northeast. And that's not good news for any of us who live up north, not too far from this pipeline. But I want to bring to your attention kind of the topic of what your session will be coming up here on Wednesday and why we're talking about this again today. And that's what the North Dakota PSC did in superseding your ability as a commission to do what the North Dakota PSC should have done. PHMSA sent a letter September 15, 2023 to Navigator Pipeline, Summit Pipeline, and Wolf Pipeline. Now, you know Navigator no longer exists, and Summit picked up all of their ethanol plants and have been holding over the last couple months what they call Phase 2 public informational sessions across Iowa. And boy, some of those I've watched, the video have been pretty interesting. Nevertheless, PHMSA sends this letter to the CEOs of these three companies, and they have basically three sections in this letter. And this is something that I would hope all of you can read this letter again. I know some of you are probably pretty familiar with it, but they talk about the role of PHMSA, the role of state regulators, and the role of local governing folks, basically county commissioners, and planning and zoning. I want to read just something here that PHMSA says about the role of state pipeline regulators. PHMSA's state partners also play a critical role in regulating the safety of intrastate pipelines. A state authority that submits a certification of PHMSA may assume exclusive regulatory authority for safety. Now, even in the kind of the mission statement of our North Dakota PSC, they talk about safety, protecting the citizens and safety. But yet, when we had the hearings, and I know Chair Bittner, when he was testifying this last spring, he got shot down when he wanted to talk about plume dispersion modeling.
Kurt, I've been told straight up by PSC commissioners that safety is not part of their purvey.
Okay, well, let me read a couple more little
Yep.
statements here, and we'll see about that. PHMSA also talks about their rulemaking that is in response to trying to make CO2 pipelines more safe, and we all know that that was the result of their two-year investigation after the February 22, 2020 Satartia, Mississippi, Denbury Gulf Coast incident. They announced their 169 pages and on May of 2022, and that they're going to do a new rulemaking, which, by the way, is not out yet. They did here 2 years ago do something with block valves, high consequence areas, population. They did come out with interim rule, something like 15 miles, and if it's not, 20 miles. So then they talk about the role of local governments. In the case of local governments that are not subject to federal certification of pipeline safety, they may still exercise other powers granted to them under state law, but none that adopt or enforce pipeline standards that affect basically federal law, PHMSA. However, PHMSA cannot prescribe location or routing of a pipeline and cannot prohibit the construction of non-pipeline building in proximity of a pipeline. Local governments have traditionally exercised broad powers to regulate land use, including setback distances and property development that includes development in the vicinity of pipelines. Nothing in federal pipeline safety law impinges on these traditional prerogatives of local or state government. We have a very strong case here for you all to protect us out here in the county. And it also talks about development, that local governments can have a set zoning ordinances to protect future development. Well, that's been what we did to keep that pipeline far enough away from east and north of Bismarck, because that's the only direction we're really growing. I stand by what I said 2 weeks ago. There is nobody at the North Dakota PSC that is qualified to make the judgment that what we all put together 2 years ago, working with citizens and the commission as an ordinance, is overly restrictive when there's no one at the North Dakota PSC that has the ability to take whatever model Summit presented. I mean, for God's sakes, it could have been a Playboy model, for all I know. It probably is worth as much as what they presented. I mean, we don't know what they presented, and who at the North Dakota PSC had the ability to say, you know what? That's sufficient enough for us to say, Burleigh County, Emmons County, you're overly restrictive, too bad. We didn't even get a chance to weigh in on that, and that is extremely troubling for me as a Burleigh County citizen, that we have no one qualified at the North Dakota PSC, certainly not the three that ruled unanimously, and certainly I don't believe they have any staff. I mean, Jeff's an engineer, I'm an engineer. We're not somebody who are experienced and qualified in running complicated plume models. It's physics, it's engineering, it's most of the guys that build these and run them are PhDs. And it's very expensive and it's very complex, and you can take and run a 2D flow or a canary model. Those are simplistic. They do not sufficiently represent what would happen if a rupture happens anywhere north and east of Bismarck with the terrain. Those models do not take into account terrain. It will not show the true flow, and we don't know if what was presented to the North Dakota PSC actually had worst case circumstances. Well below zero. Worst case, even last year with our mild winter, we had a whole week of 25 below zero. And light winds and high humidity, and that rupture happens north and east of Bismarck, that will fill Burnt Creek and Hay Creek valleys, and it'll just gradually move its way, and it'll fill the Missouri River Valley. And you guys know how fog dissipates when there's no wind versus when the wind picks up. See, this is logical. Some of this is somewhat logical common sense. You know, you can envision it without having to, be a PhD and run a model. This is an extensive amount of CO2. If this pipeline ruptures between 20-mile block valves, it's going to come out, and it's 2183 PSI and 50 degrees. It's going to come out even at 32 degrees and 1 atmosphere. It's going to expand 1,178 times. We're going to be talking about 390-some million cubic feet of CO2 that's going to be moving. And they will not, if it's a leak or rupture at a valve setting, they can isolate 2 valves like they did in Sulphur, Louisiana. Different deal. But if it's a pipeline underground that ruptures, they won't be able to get to it. They have to let it blow down. before they can get their equipment and crews over there. So we are going to be venting the entire contents of that pipeline before anybody's going to be able to shut it down. So I'm here to encourage you to do what you have to do to protect us. The North Dakota PSC was wrong. I hope they're listening to this. Shame on you three. Two plus the one guy who was really a yes from the beginning, we all believed, but nevertheless, and I just think that that was wrong, that they superseded Emmons County and Burley County. That's by making the determination that you were overly restrictive. You were trying to protect us. You were looking out for the well-being of our future growth of Burley County and the citizens. And by God, that's what we need to see, and I hope you guys give it all we got. It's worth every dollar. The county has the money, and we need to stop this insanity, Commissioner Schwab, this bullying, if you will. I mean, I've never heard in my 42-plus year career of a pipeline company flipping their middle finger at another pipeline that they're going to cross. Yeah. They're crossing MDUs, main lines that go to Fargo. They're crossing railroads. Are they doing the same thing to MDU or Williston-based Interstate Pipeline? I hope not. I mean, this is very critical stuff, but for them to flip their finger and ignore Dakota Access Pipeline says all it needs to say and what we've experienced from the beginning of all this.
Well, from what I gathered on with the DAPL pipeline, transfer partners are concerned that if there's a breach or a break in the CO2 line, how is it going to affect their line and what that mixture is going to be? And
well, right.
Who in the hell can figure that thing out? Because the state has all these universities where they could have done all of this stuff, but they're pushing the project instead of pushing safety. And that's what you get.
Well, the letter, I read the letter that DAPL sent, and they basically told Summit told DAPL, our easements don't require us, so we have to work with you guys. DAPL has viable concerns. They're worried about the construction process.
Yeah.
There's 40, DAPL identified in that letter, there's potentially 40 crossings or parallel routes of this pipeline. They're potentially going to cross DAPL 40 times. I mean, there's 40 points that they're concerned about. And they laid out the terms. They don't want heavy equipment running over the top of their pipe that's only 4 feet to top of pipe, and have tons of equipment running over, putting that pressure down on potentially stressing a weld. It's viable. They want weight distribution mats and all kinds of other things. So,
what I can't understand about that is, okay, Energy Transfer has easements, and Summit thinks they can go in and encroach on their easements because they got the government behind them. I mean, does that even make sense?
Commissioner Schwab, that's the same attitude they used without consulting, conferring, collaborating with you all before they set the route east and north of Bismarck. They've got, our politicians, our governor, legislators, all behind them. We're just going to do this, and it's going to get done no matter what. So, do you
know how many wells they drilled up there at the sequestration site? How in the hell do they know?
They just have 3 strat tests, all they have up there right now.
Three strat tests, and they will be drilling 3 injection wells. 6 injection wells. There'll be 2 in each 100,000 acre unit. Okay, there's 3 separate units. Each have 2 injection wells.
So they don't really know they even got the capacity up there.
Well, that's the other question too, because I did the math, my simple math on what they're slated with the customers they picked up for capacity. I have serious concerns on whether or not that's going to remain a 24-inch line and what the injection capacity is going to be with just 6 wells. So once it's through, this project could turn into a much larger project than they're even intimating now. And I've got serious concerns about that.
Well, I think that's Commissioner Bach, and I think that's very possible that once they get their corridor, the North Dakota PSC put the corridor and the route permit together, and that's where we as a county, you as a commission, have, according to state law, you have all the rights in planning, zoning, and setting ordinances in the corridor. Once the corridor's set, you're out of it. The route is the route. You have a say in road crossings and things like that. But the North Dakota PSC, and it was, Summit had the right to combine the two together, but the North Dakota PSC did not have to supersede you all and take you out of having any say in the corridor route. And that's the issue of what we need to fix here.
That brings up another thing. Who in the hell is going to pay for a rupture? Or if this pipeline is breaking continuously, we need to figure out an insurance policy going through Burley County. Is the state going to finance this breaks and stuff?
I'm
Because
sure.
they have not, Summit has not talked safety, period, in my opinion.
Well, okay, so for what, 15 plus years, and Jeff probably knows how long they've been at this. It's longer than 15 years they've been doing the research and spending money, and the EERC and the North Dakota Geological Survey. I can't find anywhere in all this prognostication and forecasts of carbon capture pipeline build out of, we need 90 to 100,000 miles in the country. There's even some maps that show kind of where it's going to go, which pretty much the Midwest is going to be just, you won't be able to run or hide from it. In North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska, it's just going to be full. But I find nothing anywhere, and maybe someone might have better search engines, I've tried several. What research has been done on safety? New safety techniques, technology that will go along with this brand new CCUS pipeline build out running by metropolis areas, taking, other than we've stored produced water, but this is the first time in the history of our state that we are now converting a reservoir to a storage reservoir of storing a compound, CO2. We've never done that before, so this is all brand new, but there's nothing in the way of a public awareness, immediate alerts. We don't know how their emergency response is going to go. Is it going to take 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 45 minutes? When you look at some of the incidences that have happened, like just recently in Sulphur, Louisiana, and in almost 5 years ago in Satartia, Mississippi, even the emergency response folks, nobody knew what the heck was going on. They had no idea, the animal that they were dealing with. So I'm really disappointed that as part of this there wasn't new CO2 monitoring along the route to alert folks. I've talked to, I've said this before, folks I've talked to in Iowa in a group that I was asked to attend a call. The one guy said, my mom and dad are in their 80s, they still live on the farm, and we live down in a valley, they only have a landline, and he said, our house isn't far from theirs, we have cell phones with zero service. They said, Kurt, how are we going to get noticed? And they had a phase 2 hearing coming up with Summit, and I said, that's a question you need to ask them. And I said, I hope the response isn't going to be, well, we'll take care of that once we get our permit, or once we start construction, because that seems to be their answer. Well, we'll take care of that when we start construction.
Yeah, will they?
Well,
Nice try.
I don't know what the service after the sale is going to be, but I'm not optimistic. So I think there was room for research and development of new safety methods to alert the public, local ranchers, landowners that don't have cell phones, don't have cell service. I don't see anything like that that's been done. And there are going to be folks out there that are going to have to just hope and pray that nothing ever happens, I guess. But I don't think that's the way we want to live in Burley County, having this thing so close east and north, especially when a rupture north will completely fill Burnt Creek, and it'll just fill Burnt Creek on its way through Bismarck, and it'll head over to the river. And it won't take long, and that's moving it further north didn't add a whole lot of comfort, in my mind, to me. Gave North Bismarck a little more room to grow before it gets really close to it. But, you know, the fact that this is still in our growth plate is problematic, and it's what you all tried to protect us from. And I think we as a county, we've spent money on a lot crazier things, and I just think this, you know, we're in good financial shape, and we need to make sure that we can, you know, hold the North Dakota PSC accountable for what they did in superseding these ordinances, because it was wrong.
Well, just to remind you, Commerce Department's involved in this. The governor's office is involved in this. There's a lot more blame to go around. And the problem with that is, if we do get a Chernobyl up there, the legacy fund is going to get wiped out. There's no two ways about it. You really think the federal government or the Chinese are going to come over and help us out?
No, they've got multiple LLCs. Those people, the investors, will be insulated and gone.
Yep.
It's either going to fall on the state of North Dakota if anything happens in the 300,000 acres and anything along the pipeline, or the federal government, the EPA, is going to come involved. I mean, it's our federal and state tax dollars paying for this thing once it's operational. Why would you think that it wouldn't be our federal and state tax dollars taking care of when everything goes south? So,
But
Well,
won't we be
basi-
able to rely on the Interior Secretary of the future?
Basically, it's our tax dollars being used against the citizens.
pretty disgusting.
I
It's disgusting.
You know, Kurt, one of the things we're waiting on the PHMSA report is some of the safety issues that we have concerns about and
Right.
that you've brought up.
Right.
I'm not getting a lot of good sense with them dragging their feet on the safety concern. Either one, there's more safety concerns than they realize, and they're having to vet a much more extensive report, or it's being swept under the rug. It's one of the two, and I'm not sure which yet, but I'm not, the longer this takes, I'm having less and less
Yep.
faith in PHMSA.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you there, Commissioner Baca, because I'm a bit surprised 2.5+ years later, we don't even, I haven't seen final rulemaking out of PHMSA, and it does concern me because of the political push to get this first 2,500 mile CCUS project done, that we don't have, you know, some of our leaders, political leaders, in the ear, you know, barking in the ear of PHMSA, saying, you know, just wait till, I mean, they got South Dakota to go here. So, you know, just wait a few more months. I'm not, I'm so skeptical right now of how things have been going that nothing would surprise me more than if I woke up tomorrow morning with my head sewn to the carpet. So I really think that there could be all kinds of theories that are probably not conspiracy theories, but, you know, like we've learned, are probably true. So I think that nothing should be done until those rules come out. I know it's very complex. I listened to the 3 days in May of 21 that they held in Des Moines, Iowa. They are dealing with a very complex animal, and there was a lot about the plume modeling and the complexities of it. They had a guy, a PhD in the UK, that was video streamed in. I would hate to be anyone at PHMSA responsible for putting these rules together. But at the end of the day, you have to know this. In the whole siting of this corridor, the establishment of this corridor, PHMSA's not at the table. PHMSA's not part of the siting. They set the rules there, and it says right in their letter, you can read it, construction, safety guidelines for construction, operation, emergency response. Nowhere in here do you see them say, we are setting rules, you know, that will take into account the safe siting to protect the citizens along the route from, you know, and protect them from not just health and safety, but financial and economic, meaning, you know, impeding development and growth and things like that. So I'm concerned that the rules aren't out, and I'm worried about South Dakota. You see what South Dakota just did? So they reapplied on November 19th, and within a week, South Dakota PUC comes out with a public hearing schedule. 6 counties in 3 days in the middle of January, right at the start of the legislative session. It's shameful. It's shameful that South Dakota is doing this. I mean, we're talking, they start at one morning, 9 o'clock, 8:39, then they travel to another county, city, and they're gonna start at 5:30 and go till God knows when. The next morning, they start at 10. It's the most ridiculous thing, and the only reason I can understand that they would do something so egregious against the public who wants to be there in the middle of January, who probably also want to attend some legislative hearings, that they're cramming it all in 3 days to the benefit of who? The citizens of South Dakota? No. Hell no. They're doing it to the benefit of Summit because Summit wants South Dakota in their pocket, done, and so they can start their construction coming up here. Iowa said you can't start construction until you get North Dakota, South Dakota. I know South Dakota citizens that managed to get Senate Bill 201 referred successfully as RL 21 that got shot down, thankfully. I know that they're relentless and they're not giving up. The stories that I've heard from landowners in Iowa and South Dakota and North Dakota, I mean, I can't tell you the sympathy that I have for these people and how bad I feel as somebody who's been part of sitting in ranch kitchens, farmhouses, and talking to landowners trying to build natural gas pipelines. And I've never had anyone shed tears in front of me. I mean, it's like, whoa, yeah, natural gas is something we need. So some of these things that have gone on the last 2+ years since I got involved in this are, I mean, it's sad, it's unfortunate, and it's scary as hell that this is we're going to be putting our destiny of safety, our safety destiny in the hands of these assembling of guys from an ag company building a pipeline company, grabbing professionals from all over the country. And I'm not saying some of them aren't very capable and good people, but I really, really, call me a worrier, but a worrier, but I do. I have some sleepless nights where I'm like, I can just think of all the things that can happen, and I have no faith or confidence in how they've conducted themselves, that they're going to be looking out for our well-being and our safety, and that they give 2 shits whatsoever about how this impacts any of us, because that's not what I've seen. And I've listened to dozens of landowners who, they're talking about, tears and crying and having to, I mean, this is just not something that is being welcomed with open arms. And some people have taken the big bucks, and they'll either move from their farmhouse and rent it out, or, I mean, there's one guy who's a renter of a property and farms the land. He's filed a suit. I don't remember which state it is. I think it's South Dakota or Iowa or whatever. But I mean, he's even concerned. He doesn't even own the property. He didn't even get $1, but his landlord got the money. So now he's got to kind of live with it. So I wish this were a company like the MDU Resources folks that know how to do the right thing, and that we would, have faith and confidence that our safety, health safety, financial, economic well-being is important to them. But I'm sorry, Summit, I didn't just stand up here today, December 2nd, 2024, and just, dream this up. I mean, this is a result of how you've conducted yourselves for 3 years, and I don't know what's going to change. I don't know. I don't know how to ever feel comfortable that this is a company that's gonna put a 24-inch, 2183 PSI CO2 pipeline wrapped right around Bismarck. I don't know.
You know,
Commissioner Schwab.
Transfer Partners also questioned the people building this inexperience. They don't know the first thing about building a pipeline of a project. That's what it appeared to me like they were getting at, is that they don't trust them either. So
Well,
that's an outfit that's got a lot of pipelines in.
they've been trying to sit down with them for 3 years, the letter said. 3 years.
Yep.
Okay, now I've never heard of a company having to file with the regulatory authority, commission, because a pipeline company that is crossing their existing pipeline won't even engage with them. And when 16 pages, I believe it is, the DAPL filing with the South Dakota PUC, they laid out all the conditions that they want. So they also said if Summit comes to the table and they work out an agreement, you know, they'll withdraw their intervener status. But they've asked the South Dakota PSC to basically an abeyance on the proceedings until they get something done with Summit. So,
I think we are going to have to hire a part-time lobbyist to go up there to the legislature. The legislature could overturn this, couldn't they? I mean, what the hell have we sent them up there for?
well, they're part of the problem. That's where
Well,
they
I
started.
realize it, but you would think that by now they should have gotten the picture that, of course, they're all going to be gone in the next term, working for Summit, I think.
You know, look at the propaganda that was presented to you all at the beginning. Look at the propaganda that was given to all the landowners. Why would you think that our governor, our state legislators and House and Senate leaders that seem to be proud that they got this all started 15 plus years ago, and everybody else that our federal delegation, why do you, how would you think it's possible that they were given anything other than what you all were given? It's in our soda pop, it's in the beer you drink, you exhale it. It's safer than natural gas pipelines. Well, what the hell? What are we waiting for? Let's get this going. Well, now, a lot of information has come out and a lot of public pushback. Now put yourself in all their shoes. They're digging their heels in, trying to save face. I mean, they were part of getting this all going. The state of North Dakota spent, Jeff, I don't know, is it tens of millions or hundreds of millions on research and on all this over the last, it's a lot of money. And the federal government has given the EERC a boatload of money. And of course, they're proud as a peacock because they've been a big part of making this all happen. And the guy that heads up the EERC is, you know, he's beating his chest at how great thou art when this is an R&D science project and they don't know. Jeff just showed you some of the risks when it comes to the sequestration. And all the R&D that went into that. There's nothing new going on with this pipeline, you guys. This is same, very similar construction, material, technology that we use for natural gas pipelines. Again, they totally forgot about, nobody recognized that this, or even maybe understood, or just didn't want to believe that this pipeline could actually be, and is, more dangerous than a natural gas pipeline. So maybe we should implement, do some research on, you know, some enhanced notification and emergency response procedures so that people have the most expedient notice possible on what to do. I mean, the CO2 could be completely over where I live, and a lot of other people in North Bismarck and Northeast Bismarck, and making its way well into the city before the alerts, even if there's an alert system, I imagine there would be through DES, go off on our phone. I mean, that's not acceptable. I mean, you just look at some of the incidences that have happened, and part of the problem is that residents, citizens were not notified timely. So there's, and then you have the issue of somebody being in his tractor. He's not gonna hear his cell phone. You know when he's gonna know there's a problem? When the thing starts stuttering and stops. Well, too late for him. He's not gonna be able to run away from it. The only thing that's gonna keep him alive is if he happens to have good air, and it's not gonna last long in the cab of a tractor.
I don't think a gas mask would help very much if you haven't got
Well,
oxygen
there's
out
gonna
there.
have to be things, if God forbid this thing actually goes through, there are gonna have to be things that unfortunately we are going to have to come up on our own. And you know, everything seems to just go back to the locality who got, you know, slammed, you know, shut, not having any say in this, but we're gonna end up picking up the cost. We're gonna end up having to do what we have to do to protect ourselves.
Yeah, that's, it's funny you touch on that, because that's kind of a big part of why our concern is with the ordinances, because within the ordinances, we have some requirements for fees and things that are supposed to pay for those sort of things. Now, if our ordinances are superseded and preempted, if that means they're just all thrown out with, you know, with the wash, well, then we're not gonna have a source of funding to address that. And that's a big concern, obviously. You know, the permit fees, the yearly fees for, that's supposed to go to fund emergency management
Right.
functions.
Right, but again, Chair Bittner, how do you know to what extent you need what?
Right, well, that's part of the thing, without having the plume models
do
and
you
that
know?
whole thing, we just,
I will tell you this, I mean, so they did move it, their move, when they refiled, it was less than 3 miles from where we live. Now it's east, so it's what, 6-ish miles. Again, you know, 50-mile-an-hour wind, 25 miles in a half hour, 12 and a half miles in 15 minutes, 6.75 miles, or 5.75 miles in 7.5 minutes. I mean, I'm not gonna be, in 7.5 minutes, you really think my phone's gonna, and then what if I'm on my tractor?
I can hold my breath 2 minutes, but that's about the extent of it.
I tried this summer in a group of
Well,
people,
I
and I
think-
made it a minute. before
yeah,
got
I think
passed
I
out.
think I've said in the past, I mean, I'm a certified scuba diver, and I have air tanks real near me if I'm in my shop, and I'm not so sure that I would have the presence of mind to know that I was experiencing like a suffocation or something, and get over there and actually put my own stuff to
Right.
work.
Right.
You know, I mean, I just don't see how that's going to work.
So I see I'm gonna have to have self-contained breathing, I'm gonna have to have what you have, Chair Bittner, I'm gonna have to go buy oxygen tanks, I'm gonna have, you know, in my shop or in the garage. I mean, what? Oh, yeah, and yeah, you know, you drive into it, and your car stops, you close the outside air, you make sure your windows are up, people are gonna have to be trained. But you know what dudes do when their car stalls? Open the door and
Get
go
out
out and lift the
pop
hood.
the hood.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's such a
Those
tremendous
older
amount
cars,
of-
it doesn't work now.
Yeah,
Right.
well, that's maybe
I-
the one
I
good thing
think-
about electric vehicle, I guess, but,
Yeah, I think we're all pretty understanding of what we're up against
yes.
here.
Okay,
So,
thank
thank
you
you.
for allowing
Yeah.
me to speak.
Yeah. Any- Okay, anybody else feel a desire to come on up, state your name?
I don't have a whole lot to say. Gary Anderson. I work pipelines and stuff. Not as knowledgeable as the geologist and our engineer here, but this company is the biggest farce I think I've ever experienced. I met with one of the supervisors when this first began, and I started hitting him up with some hard questions, and he couldn't answer one of them. And I've been out of this now for a long time. Sounds like you're still not getting any answers. They don't have a safety procedure. They don't have a land department. I've never heard of a pipeline company not having a land department to, first off, deal with the landowners and just going in and trespassing on their land. That's unheard of. And I've been in situations where we've had, I worked in a gas plant too. We had a release of H2S, and it was a real foggy night. So you can about imagine going down, and 3 other guys went down to look and see what was going on. I was in the control room, and I lost communication with them. That was the scariest 20 minutes. And that's be the same with the carbon. If that releases at night, foggy night, you're not even going to know you're going to drive right into it.
You know, in your industry, in oil and gas, I don't know too many industries, pipeline, plant, energy sector, you start every day with a safety meeting.
Yeah, and
Because
that's what,
you know what's going on from a safety
Yep.
perspective. We got nothing.
when have you guys heard of this video? I just looked at it today, and maybe it's old, but Kurt John T was in it with RFK came out with it,
Yeah,
and
we're-
it's.
we're
Have you guys
working
you
on
seen that one? Okay, that's why I came tonight. I just thought, well, I got this week off, so I'll attend and
Well,
throw my
that's,
2 cents in. But
that's why I say I'm not interested in a plume anymore. I want to know the radius of the kill zone.
Yes.
And it is
Yeah.
a kill zone, period.
yep,
As soon as that thing ruptures, anything around is going to die.
yep.
There's no getting away from it. And I'm pretty sure these billionaires are going to be thousands of miles away from it.
Yeah, yeah,
They're not going to be living next door to a pipeline.
yeah.
Which brings up the other thing is last year, they were saying this pipeline will raise property values. Who would trust
how
a
was that
company that would say that on the radio?
It's unreal.
Going to raise property values. I mean,
Well, that's
that
idiotic.
has got to be illegal aliens from the moon.
But they don't have a procedure how to even attack it if it does.
No, they don't.
Even OSHA, nobody has a. How do they get by with that? You wouldn't find that in the gas industry. You got. I mean, it's
Money
ridiculous.
talks. Money talks.
Right, but I mean that's what I'm saying. It's just like they're playing everybody for fools.
I think basically what, in my opinion, what you're seeing here, you know, they talk about the oligarchs in Ukraine and in Russia.
Yeah.
We've got them here,
Yep.
and they're doing the same damn thing. And as far as I'm concerned, we need to take our yachts away from them and
Yeah.
tell them, hey, build your house right here by your pipeline.
Yeah. I've never. I just
But
can't believe
this
that
is
they're
being
getting by with this.
run like Russia
Yeah.
and like Ukraine and a lot of other countries.
Well, even RFK said this is the biggest boondoggle. All it is a transfer of wealth from the taxpayers to the
Exactly. To the
elites.
oligarchs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess that's all I got to say.
All right. Thanks for your time. Anybody else? State your name for the record.
I'm Kevin Sheevy. I have one question. Can we recall our PSC members?
Could, there's a process for that. Yeah.
Pardon?
There is a process for
We
that.
just wrote it, we've just,
It doesn't start with us,
I actually voted
but-
for Randy Crispin. And he voted, evidently it's a unanimous decision, and he voted for this.
Well, if you notice, that vote took place after the election, but
Yes,
that's my
exactly.
observation.
That is it. He was on the other side before, and once you get elected, you can say what you want, you know? I think we need to start something like that. All 3 of them need to go. And Julie Fedorchak lied to us too. She said, I got a one-time payment. No, if she gets 1 penny per metric ton that goes into her ground, 1 penny, it will be $220 a day, $80,500 a year. And if it's 10 cents, it's $800,500 a year. We don't need these people representing us. We need to do the right thing. If there's a recall, if there's a course that we can take to make a recall for all three of them. And I don't know, I wasn't at the meeting. Did Julie get to vote on this last one?
No, she
No.
recused herself.
did.
She
She did,
recused
yeah.
herself,
That's
so it was
fine.
a substitute decision maker.
But now she's out of
uh,
the picture because she's going to be the state
But
representative, so.
as me, I've tracked this forever, and I didn't hear about these meetings. It's like I talked to Victor Shook, and I said, "Why didn't I hear about this?" Well, we had meetings, but I didn't know about them. I was farming. Why don't we know about these meetings? Why weren't they more publicized? And he said, well, you couldn't speak at them. Why can't we speak at these meetings? You know,
I can give you the answer.
what's that?
With the PSC, they're just going through the motions.
Yes,
That
it's
isn't a
wrong.
meeting.
We should not.
Huh?
Let's get rid of these, if we can.
I think,
Let's recall these three people. And I just voted for one of them. I'll be honest, because I thought he was on my side. He's not.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
none of
Thank
them
you.
are on your side, young man.
Okay, well, anybody else? If not, we're going to move on. Thank you all for the heartfelt information. I really appreciate that. We're going to know a little bit more about a path forward when we have our executive session on Wednesday, so I guess stay tuned. Okay? Thank you.
Do
Commissioner
we
Schwab.
want to continue this at the next meeting or give these people a break?
Well, I think we're gonna have a report from the executive session on at least the pathway of what's going on that we'll disclose right after the executive session. But then if we wanted to do an update on that at the next meeting, I think we could.
We'll decide after we do the executive session whether we want to have another agenda item for additional discussion. How's that?
Because if we don't do it at the next meeting so that they can have their Christmas stuff going on, we'd have to do it by the first meeting in January. Update. What I'm getting at is, I hate to burden them people to come if we don't have enough information.
We'll know after Wednesday.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we'll know more on Wednesdays.
Keep an eye on the agenda, folks.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, County Finance Director Jacobs, continuation of Q1 2024 investment report discussion. Go ahead.
Chair and Commissioners, this is just as to the specific issue of this check that we received for one of our CDs. I wanted to follow up on that. So at the last meeting, we discussed a CD that matured at BNC National Bank on March 28th, which was not deposited into our Wells Fargo account until April 12th. So at the meeting, I wasn't planning to talk about this because most of that occurred in the second quarter. But Commissioner Woodcox asked a question and I answered, but I really strayed far from my notes. And after the meeting, I felt that the comments may have sounded accusatory toward BNC National Bank, and that wasn't my intention. So I had speculated at the meeting that maybe the reason that it took us 2 weeks to see the money come into our Wells Fargo account could have been some combination of the bank maybe delaying in sending the check and/or delays from the post office. But that, as it turned out, was not the case. Commissioner Woodcox, did you spoke to BNC, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but they sent the check the day that the CD matured. So they did everything that we asked them to do. And so I just wanted to clarify that the issue wasn't BNC. It looks like the issue was basically the check sat in our office for about a week and a half before we deposited it.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Commissioner Wood.
I did follow up on it. I was involved with the bank years ago, but I know some people over there, and I did call them and say, okay, look up on your records and see what happened. And the CD matured on, say, March 27th or 28th?
Yes, 28.
28, and they made a check at request of our auditor's office. Our auditor's office requested a check. So they sent a certified check for that amount, including the interest that had been built up. And I checked with the post office, and they said they deliver certified mail 1 day, 2 days maximum. So we had to have gotten it on the 29th or the 30th at the very latest. And I think it wasn't the mail that was any reason for not reinvesting that money. It was 1.147 million, so it was a substantial amount. And we think it just, somebody got the check and it sat on somebody's desk or somebody's drawer, and nothing happened for 2 weeks, and we lost interest for that 2 week period. And I don't remember the amount that we did lose, but it was a loss because of poor investment policy. It wasn't invested right away, and it should have been.
Thank you for the clarification. That was the reason that that I wanted that to be on there, because the goal was to make sure that the bank understood that there was no aspersions being cast on them. And I know Commissioner Munson had a conversation with Bank of North Dakota.
Yes, I received a call from a very concerned member of the Bank of North Dakota. You know how stories go. What got back to them was that we were talking inappropriately about the Bank of North Dakota itself. I reassured them that it was not the Bank of North Dakota that was in question, but it was our own internal policies of reinvesting or having the money invested in different places. So I reassured the folks at Bank of North Dakota that we were not talking bad about their facility or their process, but it was our own internal.
Right. So just so that we're all clear, there's no indication that any banks or institutions have done anything wrong in this conversation.
Right.
Okay, so I want to be very clear about that. Thank you. You got anything else?
I got one more question, if
Okay,
you
go
could,
ahead.
Chair. And this could be to Auditor Splonskowski, could be either or. So we have an investment committee that is made up of which individuals?
Forget.
Auditor Splonskowski?
Lee.
Or Lee? Yeah.
The investment committee is myself, the deputy finance director, the auditor treasurer, and the deputy auditor treasurer.
Okay. How often does that group meet, or are they scheduled to meet once a month, once every 2 weeks, to discuss our process, and has that happened?
Yes, we met February 2nd, so I started January 8th. We met February 2nd at my request. We met again in May to talk about the investment policy. At my office requested the meeting, and then we met again in September to talk about, again, the investment policy. So I think it was those 3 meetings, so maybe approximately quarterly.
And so in the policy, is there a set time frame to meet?
Not that I recall.
Okay. And at those meetings that you had in those last 3, has there been any discussion as to recommendations for investments?
Yes. In the February meeting, on January 26th, I sent out an email to the auditor treasurer. I was kind of in the budget at that point, in the revenue budget, and I was concerned we had a large amount of interest revenue budgeted for the year. And so I strongly urged the auditor treasurer to make sure that everything is invested timely, and also that we may have funds that matured at the time of the writing, January 26th. There may at this time be matured funds that are not invested. So that was February 2nd. And then in May, it was our office was concerned about the investment policy. It did not look to us like it was being followed. And so I asked the deputy finance director to look into this. And so we met with the auditor treasurer, deputy auditor treasurer, basically going down, walking through the policy, and it was, the policy says this, are we doing this? Yes or no. Policy says this, are we doing this? And we just went through the maybe 3 or 4 broad categories. And then we followed that up, seeing not as much, movement in fixing or following the policy in between May and September. We followed that up in September with another meeting where it was, okay, we're not following the policy. So here's, in these 3 or 4, broad areas, here's our suggestion, what we need to do here. For example, the policy says basically don't over-concentrate funds in a given financial institution. You want all your money in one place. And so, we said we may be over-concentrated in Wells Fargo. We may be over-concentrated, somewhere else. Maybe. It's something we have to decide internally. How are we going to define for our institution what is over-concentrated? It's just what you do when you get these boilerplate policies like we have. You should go in and, make them fit your organization. So that was the goal here. And so that was, for all those broad areas, it was, okay, action item. We need to do this, action item. And so we did follow up from that email, and the specific action item was what I just described, concentration at a credit union. And this was going to lead into perhaps a broader policy. How much money do we want in 3-month maturing, items? How much in 6? How much in 12? That type of thing. So anyway, the deputy finance director sent an email out on September 19th saying, hey, let's say we use 25%. And he showed, based on the dollars we had deposited at that time, if we say 25% is our max, then we're going to have to move X number of dollars out of this institution and X out of that institution to get back to our, baseline, basically, or our maximum. And so then the email ended with, auditor treasurer, do you have any comments on this, or what are your thoughts on this? Because really, that's the person who needs to decide. And so it was really here's a suggestion, here's one starting point, and then, what are your thoughts? And we received no response.
So I understood the committee as being the group that does make that decision. We're going to take this 1.4 whatever that we received from BNC Bank, and as a committee, we're going to decide to put it here and in this investment. Is that not what the committee is doing? Is the committee only doing process and procedures?
Ideally, we would know what our, I'll give you an example. Right now, we're something like 80% in money markets. Okay. So ideally, we would have some kind of a maximum. We don't want to be more than, say, 30% in money markets, because money markets are not locked in. So our goal was really to establish some sort of parameters and then select investments based on the parameters. But I felt at the meeting in May, we just didn't get, I would describe it as resistance, is what we met with. Because what we were talking about doing, sure, at first it's a bit of work. You're taking quite a bit of money out of this institution that's all money markets, and you're making these investments that, match our cash flows. So now we're talking about, well, we have to model our cash flows. Well, yeah, we do. It's right there in the policy. So it ends up, because it has not been done, it ends up being a lot of work, right away. And so I think that maybe, I don't know what the feeling was on that. I can understand how that could be overwhelming, certainly. So yes, ideally, we would make recommendations and that would just be what we do. But because we're so far away from implementing the policy, that we should, in my thought is implement the policy first before we start, making all these investments. But it would be fairly, safe to take $10 million of reserves and invest it for, 6, 9, 12 months without putting too much thought into it, rather than leave it in money markets. I mean, that we could do. And that was part of the discussion in September was, hey, we're over this hypothetical 25% max in our money markets. Let's take 10 million out and put it in treasuries. That was literally, the conversation. So yeah, yes, to answer your question, yes, that's what we should be doing.
Well, that's what I understood that the committee did. So either Auditor Sponskowski or Lee, if you could, one of you send me the written policy so that I can look through it as well. I'm assuming since you're the portfolio holder, you have a copy of that policy?
I do.
If one of you three could send it to me, I would love to be able to read it, try to understand it, and know where we're going with this stuff.
I can also send you the minutes from the September 10th meeting as well.
Yeah,
Hey, you want to follow up on sending that policy? I have to sift through emails.
Yeah.
I know I have it. Incidentally, what it really boils down to is within that policy, it says it's the auditor that makes the call on doing these investments and these things.
Sure.
Now, I've mentioned before in previous conversations that it would be certainly easy enough for us to modify the policy. We could say, well, these guys are well aware of what the actions are that need to be taken, but then all of a sudden we get into that chief financial officer question and that whole, so there's kind of bigger issues at play here.
No, I
And
get that.
incidentally, the way it's looking is it's a little bit worse than we thought. Commissioner Woodcox?
Mr. Chairman, have we changed our policy since this problems we had in
No.
March, April, May? Have we done anything different? Are we doing anything different
No,
today?
it's just coming to our attention now.
Okay.
I mean, we learned about this at the last meeting.
I
That was the first documentation of what the problem is, and there will certainly be more. They are actively working on it, and I went ahead and notified them today, or Lee, based on a conversation with the state's attorney, that when we get the numbers for 23, all quarters, and then the numbers for 24, then we're going to look back into the previous year also. So we know if this is a kind of a historical problem that's just been continuing or when it actually started. So we're going to have a whole bunch more information, but I explained to him that the immediate focus is to figure out exactly where we are right now. And then we'll look back and see if we need to do some additional changes or something. And what, Commissioner Woodcox?
When I visited with the banker that I deal with, or know, I said, we're having a problem with our investments. We're not doing them properly. We're under-investing. He says, you know how I can take care of that problem right away. I said, what's that? Call the bank. Call the bank you're dealing with. They've got investment officers. They'll tell you, they'll teach you how to do these things. And, of course, they'll want to sell you their product,
Sure.
But still, that's better than not having anything done at all or
Right.
doing the wrong thing. And he said any bank will have that's substantial size, will have an investment officer that can
Yeah.
help you. In a matter of hours, they can teach you how to do things, so.
Right. There's no question about that. Thank you. Thanks, Lee. Unless you have anything else? Okay. Okay. Next item is County Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski on final budget clarification and consideration of amended 2025 meeting calendar.
Chairman and Commissioners, looking at the final budget for the 2024 tax year, I had some questions, and I sent this off to the state auditor's office, I should say, for a clarification. Now, at the last meeting where I received clarification to use the individual funds, their balances to buy themselves down rather than using the general fund balances, at that meeting, I did state to the commission that the Water Resource District, we do not collect reserves for that fund. So the only way in which we could buy them down would be to use general fund dollars to buy them down, or somehow force them to use their own reserves. I don't know how we would do that. But that being said, if that is and I sent that off to Lee, he had a different interpretation than I did on it, and so I wanted to get clarification from the commission on what your desires are. Now, if your desires are to use, it's $66,038. That's what it would be, to get them to collect the exact same dollars as last year. I would have to add a line item. It wouldn't be any issues because we wouldn't be increasing what we would have been collecting from the preliminary. It would just simply be a line item for miscellaneous or whatever you wish it to be, just so that we can account that for our annual audit.
Okay, question I would have right off the top is you mentioned their reserves. And we don't maintain those reserves?
No, we do
They
not.
have their own reserves?
Yeah, we
Okay.
don't collect any reserves for them.
Okay,
And
so
so
at
that's
this
why I
point,
said that.
my opinion would be
It's
that,
not just reserved as money. They are on their independent, they're completely independent.
right, so
they-
is there any problem with them dipping into their reserves to make up the 66,000?
I don't know why not. I mean, they have control of their reserves. They can do whatever they want with it, and they have their own budget. And so, there's nothing information in our packet, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about. The 66,000. What is that?
So the goal of the commission was to have a net $0 increase.
For 25 now,
For
you're talking.
2025,
Okay.
for 2024 tax season, 2025 budget. And like I said, at that last meeting where I received that clarification, I did tell the commission, there's the only way in which all these different funds could be reduced without reducing their budget are two options: buy them down with general funds or take it out of their own funds reserves. The commission chose to take it out of those own funds reserves. I also mentioned the Water Resource District, that we do not collect reserves for them. So the only way that we could, on our end, to bring them to a $0 increase would be to buy it down with general funds. Either that, or at the time, which at that point would have been too late, I believe, to force them to reduce their budget. But like I said, at that particular time, I believe it would have been too late to do so. So the only
Do you know what
only
they
option-
have in their reserves?
I do not.
Something like 600 and some odd thousand? Is that,
I can't tell you a number. I honestly don't know.
I see.
Mr. Chairman?
It's not ours to maintain.
Commissioner
We have a
Wood.
monthly meeting coming up, the first or second Wednesday of the month, so it's coming up. I'll put that on the agenda, and they can discuss it, and they can make their own decision.
Okay.
But are they aware of this?
I wanted to get clarification from the commission before I reached out to them because I didn't know what you
So
wanted.
they don't know
to do.
anything about this?
No.
Okay.
And
So
we-
I would prefer, if we put it on the agenda, then I want you there to defend yourself or somebody, because they're gonna ask a million questions.
Well, and
And they're not gonna vote for it unless they know what they're talking about.
Well, and there's kind of we're kind of against the time crunch because we got to get these mill levies out. We got to get these tax bills sent out. And that's why, again, with the elections, with everything that happened there, I wasn't able to attend I wasn't able to work on the final budget until after the election was over.
But the
And
budget
so-
was final, and we voted on the final budget in September.
And then
Here we are in
And
December.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna support, taking funding out of the general fund reserves when the Water Resource District, from all accounts, has reserves of their own to fund. Because that's consistent with what we did with everybody else.
That's fine. But I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
so that we can.
But I want somebody there to defend your thoughts. So.
Yeah, and somebody from Water Resources to.
Oh, they'll be there.
So the commission just
They have their own
wants us
account.
to collect the same dollar amount as last year, but not give them any general funds. I just need that clarification.
Right, that's my opinion. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
I'm with consensus with that.
What's the time element? You say,
We have to get these ready for, we can send out the tax bills.
you're waiting on this to send out tax bills?
Well, this is the final thing. Everything else is ready. We're
The
ready
tax
to,
bills
we're ready
won't
to pull
change.
trigger.
The taxes people get that you send out, that's not gonna change.
That's what
No
I'm
matter
just-
what this decision is made.
Then that's just what
Okay.
I'm verifying.
So that's the only time crunch. We don't have to have this done by the end of the year or something like that, or,
Well, basically, I need to know what you guys want to collect in taxes, and then so I can also get this report ready for the auditor, the annual audit,
which
so
is
that
that
they can
first
say,
of the year.
okay, well, where did the $66,000 go? If it's going to go anywhere. And that's what I need for you guys. The dollar amount collected, as per the desires of the commission, will remain the same as last year. But in that budget that I have to submit to the state, if we are going to give any money to the Water Resource District,
not.
we have to have that clarified. That's just what I'm trying to
We're
get
not.
here.
The
the
hard
only-
part
Well, I
for
don't
me-
expect,
sorry.
I don't expect the commission to. I just wanted to be fair. I mean, they don't know anything about this. It's gonna be kind of a
Right.
shot in the, you know
Yeah,
what?
they have pretty substantial reserves. I was gonna look it up because I have it in an email.
I think it's over $1 million, but
Yeah.
don't quote me on that. I don't
Okay,
know.
Commissioner Munson.
Well, that's where I was gonna go, same with Commissioner Woodcox, is this is coming out of the blue for them. They're going, they don't know anything about it. We've already made this decision twice. We're not adding anything to the taxes. So unfortunately, these folks are either gonna have to reduce their budget by 66 or take it out of their reserves.
Yeah.
Which is hard for me to say when there's not sitting here to give them the opportunity to talk.
Exactly.
I have an issue with that. But we've already made that decision twice.
Yep. I don't see a need to revisit it. It seems to be pretty clear.
Okay, thank you. The the other one is the consideration of the amended 2025 meeting calendar. There was one particular date that the Tom Baker Room was already scheduled, which would have been, I believe, that January 22nd. So we went ahead and moved the meeting to January 21st, which is a Tuesday. And so I just want to bring that before the commission for their consideration.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the amended agenda, meeting calendar. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Next, County Engineer Hall, Highway 10 Mill and Overlay. Welcome, Marcus. And then request for consultant engineering on Highway 10 project and authorization to advertise for bids.
Good evening, Commissioners. The first item I have on the agenda is a concurrence letter that the DOT requires on bidding of the federal projects. North Dakota Department of Transportation is requesting that Burley County concur with the estimated cost sharing amounts for the Highway 10 project. This Highway 10 project is basically finishing up the project that we constructed this year, going all the way over to Sterling, and in addition to that, doing a chip seal from the 66 roundabout all the way over to Sterling too. The DOT did let this project on November 15th. Bids are open. They're included in your packet, the bids that we received. The low bid was with Central Specialties. They were below the engineer's estimate on this project. We felt we got really good numbers on that. Second page of that board letter shows you the cost breakdown on that particular project. So the amount of county funds, the total bid will be $3,182,375.04. The county share of that is $636,475.01. That was below the budget amount that we had put in for the 2025 budget. So everything looks good in that particular project and the letting of that. There's a proposed resolution in your packet. I'd recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Is this part of that contract from kind of 3824-156?
Yes, Commissioners. I was just going to bring up, too, that at this point, with the concurrence of this particular project, the chair, the auditor, the state's attorney will all be receiving DocuSign documents coming through your desk in regard to that for signature. So it is okay to go ahead and sign those documents now.
That was the reason I asked, because I had an email exchange with Sarah Susie, today that I spoke with you about this and that we had to take action on it here before I could sign that one, so.
Yes.
Okay, we're good to go. Thank you.
Yep. The next item I have on the agenda is requesting the selection of a consulting firm to perform the construction engineering on this particular project. Normally, the highway department could take care of construction projects. The only time that we get into trouble a little bit is if our workload is, if we're packed, if we have other things going on, or in federal projects. Federal projects require a much more in-depth process and certifications that we currently don't have. So what we're requesting is that the county board allow us to go out in selection of a consulting firm to perform the construction engineering on this particular project. The process is fairly defined on what we can ask for. We do written proposals. They come in from the consulting firms. We review those things. Once the best consulting firm is selected, we work with the DOT in setting up the scope of the project and the timeline of the project to move forward then. And then at that point, we apply the cost factors to the contract and then bring all that back to the county board for you guys' approval on that contract. It is an 80-20 split, federal money, local money. And there's a proposed resolution in your packet. I'd recommend approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Bakken?
Marcus, just for clarification, so we're in charge of getting the engineering or deciding on who the engineer is the DOT does not have? They just rely on us for that? Or because I know they have a rather robust engineering process, so how does that process work?
Yeah, that's correct. They have a process, and we actually follow the process that they have for selecting a consultant.
But we're in charge of selecting
Yeah, but
that
we're in
consultant.
charge of the process. They've delegated that over to us.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
This might not make real good sense to you right now, but, so does Burley County receive federal grants and federal money for projects in Burley County?
There are certain projects that we receive federal money, and there's certain federal money sources that we tap into. This particular pot of money that we're using on this particular project, both the Highway 10, the construction and the construction engineering are what we call rural county federal money. So
So is that like a grant or a?
actually, it's divvied up
It's just
each
federal
year.
money, right?
Yeah, each
So
year
we
comes into
receive-
the state.
That's the only question is,
Yep.
we receive federal money.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcox?
when you receive federal money like that on, not just this project, but how do you handle that? Where does that go? You have your own account that you put that in for construction projects, or does it go to the general fund, or?
Actually, it's very specific on federal projects and what you can spend the money on and stuff. And this particular project is a reimbursement process. The feds actually the state actually holds on to the money. We do the project, we spend the money, and we get a reimbursement from them right away. So
But you pay for it in advance.
there's a combination on that. Sometimes we pay for it in advance. And when I say in advance, it's a bang kind of thing. It's really a quick thing. So it's no big time lag in that. And sometimes the bills go directly to the DOT and they pay for them. We don't even see it.
You don't handle the
We do not
physical
handle
money.
the funds per se.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay,
I would move to approve.
Second.
okay, a motion, a second to approve. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Bakken?
Yes.
Schwab?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Go
The
ahead.
third item I have on the agenda is our annual request for going out for bids for our annual items that we go out for, painting and paving markers, crushing of the gravel, township gravel hauling, dust control, and chip seal projects. There's a proposed resolution in your packet. I'd recommend approval.
Move we approve.
Second.
Yeah, a motion, a second to approve. Any further discussion?
I got one.
Commissioner Bakken?
As far as the crushing, so this is taking in consideration the new specs and,
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
This is all taken into consideration on that. And we work with Commissioner Schwab on the selection of the pits and things like that. We talk about how much money that goes into that and how it subdivides up into different areas. Because as you know, we milled a bunch of material this last year in Highway
Right.
10. So there's a certain amount that we want to put to crushing of that millings to get that, so we have that stockpile. But we also have to look at making sure that our other gravel sources throughout the county are replenished that we used up in previous years. So it's spread out over the whole county.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Pardon me?
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Marcus and I met this morning on a lot of this stuff, and I think I heard you right when you said we're coming ahead by what we're doing. You know, like field stone rock, etc.
Thanks.
Breaking it, crushing it, getting our own mixture rather than buying it for $25 a ton.
Yep. It looks like it is cost-effective for us doing the location of the rock, bringing it in, crushing it as part of our process. It's not also cost-effective, but it's also giving us a better product, and that's the key that we want out there right now.
That's a
So-
very big deal right there.
Yep.
Okay, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes?
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Rachel, Bismarck Mandan MPO, Arrive 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Welcome. Oh, you don't look like Rachel.
Thank you, Chair Bittner, Commissioners. No, unfortunately, Rachel Lukaszewski cannot be with us this evening, and so I, Kim Ripple, with the Bismarck-Mandan Metropolitan Planning Organization, is here in her place. I am here to introduce our MPO consultant, Jason Carby. He's with HDR. He's here with us tonight to present on the Arrive 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The Arrive 2050 is a major planning document that assists the MPO, our local jurisdictions, of course, which of one Burleigh County is, and the North Dakota DOT in envisioning how to best prepare for the future the local transportation network. More specifically, it helps the local municipalities to use federal transportation dollars to improve the transportation network, through expansion or maintenance. We've been working on the project for about a year and a half, and Jason's presentation to you tonight will provide you an outline of how we prepared for the study, how public input was used throughout, and what overarching goals, development themes, and grant projects we hope to pursue upon possible acceptance of this master plan. The Burleigh County Planning and Zoning Commission, at their meeting on November 13th, did recommend acceptance of the MTP. Tonight, the MPO is requesting that Burleigh County Commissioner approve the Arrive 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan through a resolution of receipt, which was included as part of your meeting packet. Please note that there was an error on the resolution that was included in the packet, and it has been corrected to correctly identify the chairman of the Burleigh County Commission as Brian Bittner. The MPO did advertise this meeting as a public hearing, and either Jason or I would be happy to stand for any questions at the conclusion of his presentation.
Okay.
I will turn it over to Jason.
All right, thank you, Kim.
Sorry, there's a Windows update. Looks like it might happen in the middle. I'll try to keep this quick. Okay. Can everybody see the slides? There we go. Thank you. So I'm going to give a really high-level overview, and I'll keep it pretty quick. But if you guys want to ask questions, go into more depth about anything, please do. So essentially wanted to go over what's in the plan. We do have 11 chapters, and I'm going to walk through each of them really quickly here. But Kim touched on this, but really the Metropolitan Transportation Plan is one of those core products that the MPO puts together in working with all of the jurisdictions, including yourselves. But essentially it looks out 20 years. This is the Arrive 2050 plan. So we're looking out to the year 2050, looking at, what's out there today, what are the system needs, trying to get out in front of future growth trends, and really develop what we call a fiscally constrained list of needs. So we've got this list of everything that's, good ideas and a vision of what we want, but also those things that we think are actually within our budget. We kind of went through a goals and objectives process. There's certain requirements. These need to be updated every 5 years. And so there's certain requirements that need to be in there, but also it's an opportunity for, all of the jurisdictions really to work together to kind of identify what that local vision is. Had 8 different goal areas as a part of this. Had a really extensive public engagement process. We had 3 different milestones where we had online and in person on both sides of the river. A lot of engagement with technical staff with all the jurisdictions, so planners and engineers with cities and counties, and the committee, and monthly updates to the TAC and the policy board. But one of the chapters kind of looks at trends, commuting, demographics, how the community's been growing historically. And then one of the big chapters was really the existing conditions analysis, just kind of where the system is today. We looked at it from a variety of perspectives. We looked at safety, really one of the critical areas we really look at in transportation. Where were there crashes? But also, what are the overall trends we've seen in the area for all crashes? Congestion, one of those key goal areas was efficiency. So looking at where we've got congestion today and where it's starting to emerge in the future. I think one of the big areas that we've seen in the past and continue to see today is really trying to get out in front of that cross area travel. On this side of the river, it's really that north-south travel, trying to find those corridors that can be those, really allow for those longer trips across the county, across Bismarck, Lincoln. And then on the Mandan side, really, it was east-west travel was one of those focus areas. So, looked at future growth, anticipating that the community is going to continue growing. We're anticipating about 30 to 40% growth in jobs and population between now and 2050. I think we've seen that historically, and kind of looked at where that growth was too. And that all really focused our attention on where we anticipate future travel to happen, where we've got some traffic congestion starting to pick up. How does that translate into, traffic and congestion and where we start to see some of these issues really pop up. So we had that kind of background of, okay, where are we today? Where are we heading in the future? What is that list? So, kind of that list of, okay, all these different strategies we could apply. We looked at, what is the range of potential projects to consider. And so we've got this kind of all of these alternatives that were considered, lots of kind of, as the community continues to grow, can we take some of these rural, maybe gravel and, 2-lane roads and start making them urbanized, add curb and gutter, add turn lanes, allow for, traffic signals or roundabouts in the future. But also we've got some safety projects in here. We've got some maintenance projects to kind of continue maintaining the system that we've got today and preserving that. We've, kept the Northern Bridge Crossing on the list here, in addition to potential future interchanges. And then one of those requirements, again, is that this needs to be what we call fiscally constrained, but basically, funding and your project costs should come into alignment. And we are kind of seeing as an industry, revenue's growing a little bit and costs are growing pretty substantially. And so purchasing's power over time is going down. But we kind of looked at all those different funding pots and considered, and worked with local jurisdictions, worked with engineers, which projects make the most sense for each of these different funding pots. And so this is the fiscally constrained list. I think some of the highlights in Burleigh County, we've got some maintenance projects on 52nd and on 66 that we've included. Also, some midterm and long-term on old Main out to the east or old 10, Highway 10. Looking at kind of widening those, and as as development continues to happen, adding some turn lanes and things to make them safer. And then also looking at maintaining and expanding trails. Again, that's a different funding source, but also getting some kind of those critical safety projects, start submitting those to North Dakota DOT for some of that federal funding sources that are available for those as well. And then finally, the last chapter really focuses on just demonstrating that, we've got this locally tailored plan, but it also kind of checks the boxes on what some of those federal requirements are. And so I won't go into a ton of detail on that, but that's a very high level on the presentation. tried to keep it brief, but hopefully give you, it's a long, it's been 18 months and it's a big in-depth report. But I will take any questions you have, or Kim and I can do that.
Okay, commissioners, any questions? I'm not seeing any.
Okay,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate the update. Kim, do you want to add anything? Nope, you're good? Okay. Thank you. Next item, County Planner Flanagan, Wise Subdivision and Big Sky Passenger Rail.
We need to approve that. Yeah. It was passed to planning and zoning.
Oh, it needs an approval?
Yeah.
We would be looking, excuse me, Chair Bittner, Commissioners, we would be looking for an approval by resolution of receipt, which was included in the packet. As I noted,
Okay.
we did correct it to
Apologize,
include
I
your
didn't
name.
catch
So-
that. Okay, commissioners, what are your wishes?
I'll move to approve as long as that one piece is fixed. Your name on it instead of his.
Getting demoted, getting demoted again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Schwab?
Yes.
Woodcox?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. It's gonna be a long day. Okay, welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. In your packet is the, first item is the Weiss subdivision. It's pronounced Weiss. It's a 2-acre plat that's out in Gibbs Township. It basically took out 2 acres out of a 68-acre parcel. The stormwater management waiver was approved on November 4th. Paving waiver was granted because it fronts on the Highway 10, so no paving would have been required. There are 4 revisions to this plat. We've had it since September, and we've been working on it since then. At the public hearing on 11/13, the Planning Commission recommended approval for 9-0 vote. Any questions for me?
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Commissioner Schwab. He asked who made the motion.
Move to approve.
Yep, yeah, we're good. No, we're good. It was a question. Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Woodcox?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Bakken?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, next.
Next item on the agenda is the letter of support that what we had discussed in the October meeting for the Government Partners Program in conjunction with the Big Sky North Coast Corridor that has been recommended by the Federal Rail Authority as a route to be restored for service through Bismarck from east to west, from Fargo over to Montana. This will be reinstatement of the former North Coast Highway off the passenger lane. And basically, the support letter is conceptual. It doesn't say anything that we're going to pledge money or actually do anything specific, but we are in support of demonstrating a commitment for this rail service through our region. Various other communities, Fargo, Mandan, City of Bismarck, have all signed letters, including Jamestown and Valley City, I understand, even though they're not part of an NPO.
Commissioner Bakken.
Actually, I would be very much in support of this project. This is something that started, that I was contacted about by an organization. It actually started as a tourism effort in Montana and has grown into a much more robust project that would have a lot of benefits for the old rail line and the communities involved, which include Bismarck. So this was something that had grown when I was mayor and watched this project develop, and I would be very much in favor of this. Again, no financial constraints to this, but a letter of support would go a long way for the federal funding that's needed to get this project done.
Is that a
Second.
motion?
Yeah.
I'm
Yes,
assuming that's a motion.
yeah.
Okay. Further discussion? My last name is spelt with 1 T.
Yeah, so I would approve this with that fixture.
Okay. Call the roll?
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Bakken?
Yes.
Schwab?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Mitch. Hey, you can call me anything, just spell it right, huh? County HR Director Binder, 2025 holidays approval from the holiday policy. Welcome, ma'am.
Chairman Bittner, Commissioners, I have one item, the holiday policy. And the reason why it's coming to you tonight is basically in the holiday policy, it says Burley County observes the federal holidays that have been approved by the Burley County Commission at the first meeting in December of the preceding year. So I'm asking you to approve the same holidays, which is under Section 1, items A through L. And it's the same ones that we had this year, and it does not include Juneteenth. So I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Schwab?
Yes.
Woodcox?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Next, Sheriff Lieben, Burley East renovation project and fund commitment. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Kind of a brief update, kind of let you know where we're at, and then we have to look at funding. So to kind of circle back, to go over kind of where we started, where we're at. So basically, I came before the commission, we talked about this project. We identified potential funding sources for the remodel project.
Hang on. In the event that my company decides to vote, bid on that or anything else, I want to hand off this item to the vice chair. Okay, and I'm not
Okay.
going to participate in the vote.
Please continue.
So where we're at tonight is, we, at the last meeting, I got authorization to get the architect in place. So we are working with Ubel Design, and we had talked about paying for that out of the ARPA funding. And so at least that's how I remember it, and Lee can correct me if I'm wrong. He's going to assist with any questions on the funding. We're kind of at a crossroads where we're up against the clock because the remaining ARPA funds, which you've gotten on your packet there, have to be committed by the end of '24 and spent by the end of '26. So there's no concern with the spending of it by the end of '26, but we basically got to make an official action that that money's committed to whatever project. So in looking at the Burley East remodel project, we're kind of waiting on Ubel Design. He's moving forward. We just finally got the contract approved by both the state's attorney and Jeff Ubel. So that's been signed. He's gone to work right away. He's laid out a timeline for us that's very conducive to the project. Basically, we'd be looking at design being completed hopefully mid-December. We're a little bit behind in getting that contract signed. Bidding would be in January of '25. Construction, start of Phase 1, February '25, construction Phase 2, April '25, and then completion June of 2025, which is a very good project timeline.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
So just to clarify, that would be the ARPA funding identified in your packet along with the local assistance, tribal consistency funding. Okay.
Okay. Lee, did you have anything to add on this one? No? Okay. With that, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Bakken?
Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
On this, what is going on up there at Wilton? Have you looked at them numbers on that last sheet? And they went over budget.
By 66 cents. Talking about,
I mean, 6666666. That's how can something happen that way? I just thought it was kind of an odd
Just
thing.
evil.
They're connected with the pipeline, I think, aren't they?
Summit's got to be involved in that, yeah.
Don't start that.
Okay, well, we're back to,
Chair Bittner.
okay, we're back. Commissioner Munson, going to lead off with a formal grievance discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Last week, I received a formal grievance request from Auditor Splonskowski regarding the process of selecting interview panels. So Auditor Splonskowski, you've got your letter that you need to hand out to the commissioners.
So what I have here is a grievance report form. I didn't have enough time to print off that letter with everything that happened right before the meeting, but I can read it if you wish.
No, at
Okay.
that point, I move it to the next meeting. I asked for all this stuff to be in our packet, so we had it, so we could read it, so we understood what was happening. If we're not prepared, we'll just move it to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, well, that's not something that takes a motion in a second. We'll just move that.
Consensus, yeah.
We'll just move that to the next meeting. The other thing, were you saying you wanted to say something?
I'll wait for other business.
Oh, well,
I
before
got
we
it.
get to other business, we have the investigation report that I added. State's Attorney.
So I had, as you all know, there was a internal investigation done.
Microphone's not on.
There we go. As you all know, there was an internal investigation done within the Auditor Treasurer's Office. And I'm just here to report on that, since my office is the one that did the investigation. Just to let everybody know about the timeline, this investigation began as a complaint regarding text messages that were sent by the Auditor Treasurer as a potential policy violation or a Hatch Act violation. That information came to me to make a determination as to whether this text message met that policy violation or a Hatch Act violation. I received that email on October 15th, 2024, with some questions about that. I had further questions about the complaint that came in when the text message was sent, how many text messages were sent, things of that nature. So I requested from HR Director Pam Binder, who had sent me the request to review for an opinion, and asked her if she would be okay with our investigator doing an internal investigation regarding these text messages that had been sent out. So that request was made on October 17th. As you all know, that was the same day that our elections manager or assistant, Lisa Hart, had resigned. It was right around that time. She actually resigned on the 15th. On the 17th, there was a phone conversation with Lisa Hart and HR Director Binder where there was some potential allegations of a potential hostile work environment. So that was kind of wrapped up into this investigation. But I want to be clear, the investigation began because of a question regarding whether there was a Hatch Act violation with some text messages that were sent. So basically what happened, and I did send the packet with the memo regarding the internal investigation to HR Binder, which I understand was shared with all of you because this involves an elected official and there's really limited things we can do when something happens regarding an elected official. So just as a background, the complaint came in because it was determined through the investigation, multiple text messages, 66 of them, were sent by the Auditor Treasurer on his personal phone during work hours to 66 individual people. The body of the text read, "I'm just letting you know from the perspective of being the county auditor for a year and a half, please do not vote for Brian Bittner for county commissioner. If you want more details as to why, let me know. Also let your friends know too. Thanks." So during the course of the investigation, Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski was also provided an open records request from our office as part of this internal investigation. What we wanted was any communication regarding him and Lisa Hart and Brian Bittner. So we did receive information, communications between Mr. Splonskowski and Ms. Hart. We did not receive anything regarding any communications from Mr. Splonskowski regarding Brian Bittner, nor did we receive copies of these 66 messages that went out. Despite that, they were the subject of this internal investigation, and despite the fact that we had made an open records request. Because he sent them out as the county auditor, they fall under open records. We did get a copy of the text that I read, and that was from an outside person. That's what launched the investigation. So when we had requested copies of these messages, Mr. Splonskowski did indicate to me that he did not believe that his personal opinion sent on his personal phone met the criteria of an open record, despite the fact that he sent them as the county auditor. And he also indicated that he had fully cooperated with our investigation and did not send the messages we had requested. So when looking at the Hatch Act, he also indicated that he did not believe, because he's an elected official, that the Hatch Act applied to him. So the Hatch Act would apply to him as an elected official if the county receives any federal grants or federal loans. Then the Hatch Act applies. The Hatch Act is not a criminal statute. It is basically a civil or administrative statute. So there is no criminal penalty that comes from it. But if a person who qualifies under the Hatch Act does commit a Hatch Act violation, it's reported to the Office of Special Counsel, which is a federal agency. They would investigate, and if they determine there's a Hatch Act violation, they can demand that the person who violated the Hatch Act be terminated. Well, obviously, as an elected official, you can't terminate an elected official. So, and there is a provision in the law where if the OSC, the Office of Special Counsel, recommends that the person who violated the Hatch Act be terminated, and the agency decides to retain that person, then there's basically a monetary penalty of 2 years of that person's salary, which is taken off the grant or the loan. That's the remedy for a Hatch Act violation. So having said all that, the Hatch Act does apply to elected officials. A state and local agency under the Hatch Act means an executive branch of a state, municipality, or other political subdivision of a state or an agency or department thereof, which the Burleigh County Auditor Treasurer's Office falls under that definition. A state or local officer or employee is an individual employed by the state or local agency whose principal employment is in connection with an activity that is financed in whole and in part by loans or grants made by the United States or a federal agency, but doesn't include certain people. And I did attach in the packet that I had given the HR director the actual language of the Hatch Act. But basically, as the department head of the Auditor Treasurer's Office, the elected auditor and treasurer would not meet any exemptions listed in statute because they're the person that's in control of any money coming into the county. So if the county receives any grants or loans, then the auditor treasurer would fall under the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act prohibits a state or local officer or employee from using his or her official authority or influence for the purpose of interfering with or affecting the result of an election or nomination for office. And that's exactly what this text message did. In looking at some advisory opinions from the OSC, trying to influence the election either way, so supporting a candidate or trying to influence people not to vote for a candidate, both of those actions fall under the Hatch Act. In looking through the investigation that was done by our investigator, Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski did admit to sending the text messages. They were all sent at the same time. He wouldn't give us copies of those, but he did, as the investigator was talking to him, look through his phone and count how many he had sent, and it was 66 messages that he had sent. He indicated he sent them all at the same time. That would have been Tuesday, October 8th at 11:55 a.m., which was during work hours. And Burleigh County has a policy that prohibits any employee from engaging in political activities while on duty. And political activity is any form of campaigning or electioneering. And we, in our policy, actually have the citation to the statute there too. So based on the information in our policy, it appears there was a policy violation as well because that would have been sent during work hours while Auditor Splonskowski was at work. So my conclusion was there was a policy violation and there may have been a Hatch Act violation if the county does receive federal loans or grants. And we just talked about the ARPA grant. So incidentally, in this, as I indicated before, we had an open records issue. We also had a cooperation with our investigation issue. I want to point out that an employee who's the subject of an internal investigation, if they do not cooperate with the investigation, they're subject to immediate termination. Obviously, as an elected official, that is not an option either. Failure to turn over an open record based on Attorney General opinions regarding open records and open meeting violations, that subjects the county to liability. It also subjects the person who withholds the records to personal liability. What that is, that depends on the violation. So there are several things here that bear looking into. And again, as an elected official, there's limited things that can be done. Recommendations can be made so that the behavior doesn't continue. So my recommendations regarding this would be that Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski attend Secretary of State elections training where they discuss the Hatch Act and how to comply with the Hatch Act. I would also recommend that Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski attend remedial training regarding open records and open meetings so that he understands what a record is and understands his obligation to turn over open records when requested. So that's the internal investigation regarding my portion of it, which was a potential Hatch Act and policy violation. As indicated, all these things kind of happened around the same time when Ms. Hart resigned and then had a conversation with Ms. Binder. There was a potential allegation of a hostile work environment, so we did kind of wrap that into our investigation since the investigator was going to be speaking with people from the Auditor Treasurer's office. Speaking for Ms. Binder, there was nothing that came up during that investigation that indicated there was a hostile work environment at the Auditor Treasurer's office, so nothing further needs to be done regarding that because that was not found. So I'd stand for questions if anyone has any.
So I'm going to hand the chair off to the vice chair.
Are we able to force the auditor to go to these classes?
No.
No? Are you going to be going to them?
I'm all for further education. Any response past that, I would,
I said, are you going to go to these two that were recommended?
Turn the mic.
I would be happy to take any education that you'd like me to take. Whether I agree with you or not.
Well, do you agree?
I will take any education that you would
Do
like
you
me to
agree?
take. I would take any education you would like me to take.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner, yeah, he's recusing himself, so.
I know we have an education budget for that, continuing education budget for that department. I think it's $30,000, and I understand there has been nothing spent in this year for that amount. Is that, I don't know how I can confirm that. I can ask our, am I looking at Lee over there? You're nodding yes? Is that confirming my, okay. So we have a $30,000 education budget, which is continuing education. 4,000? I'm sorry, 4,000. And none of it has been spent. Okay.
These courses that I'm talking about are offered free through the Association of Counties and through the Secretary of State. I don't believe they charge for any of those.
Do you know what the schedule for those courses are, or are they quarterly, or are they monthly, or?
I would assume that there'd be some coming up maybe not necessarily for auditors, but because we just had an election and there are county commissioners that maybe knew there should be some at least open records, open meetings training as part of that newly elected officer training that the Association of Counties puts on. They haven't put out their training schedule yet so that I could see what was available, but a phone call to them to find out when their next course on that would be appropriate.
Mr. Vice Chair, if, for like the North Dakota Association of Counties training, you can go to their website, you can find the course, you can send them an email and request that to be sent to you so that you can take that course at your leisure. I've been doing that typically every Saturday. I find one or two of those courses.
Okay. Then as far as the Secretary of State's, we don't know when those pop up, but we're assuming they would be sometime soon, correct?
Those usually are in conjunction with elections, and so I know they just had a series of courses that dealt with elections. In fact, that was part of the information that we had received too, where there was minimal attendance by Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski. So I'm not sure if he actually received any of the Hatch Act training, but I know that that is incorporated in some of the Secretary of State's training.
So is all of that training in person or online, and then what, is there a report of attendance that we would receive for that, or?
So I know through the Association of Counties, they offer a lot of it online, and then you can request to get information regarding who attended, and they actually have login and log off times, so you can see if the person actually attended the entire training. The Secretary of State.
But I could log on and walk away from my computer
Correct.
And not learn anything?
That's a possibility as well. It's on the honor system.
Okay. Any other discussion, thoughts? Commissioner Woodcox?
What are our options? Apparently very limited, is that true?
Correct.
Okay. Any recommendation on how we should handle this?
That would be the recommendation at this point, is to recommend those trainings, and hopefully they'll be attended, and hopefully there will be some takeaways from that.
Is there a quiz associated with that?
No, there's not. I would expect that the department heads, when asking for legal advice, would go to the legal advisor for the county. I do know that part of this investigation, we were told that we wouldn't get copies of the messages until Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski consulted with legal. He never called my office. Obviously, my office was the one making the request. I wouldn't be requesting things that I thought fell outside of open records. So it's my opinion that that was an open record, again, given that he sent that as the auditor. So again, I can only give advice. If it's not followed and sets the county up for liability, I mean, I can't force people to follow my advice either.
Any recommendations from the commission?
Another quick question. Can we wrap this investigation into other things that we've got going that are our investment policies? Can we wrap those two together and not act on this at all until we've gotten our hands around the investment policy and how it's being handled by the same office and the same officers?
Well, there's not really much you can do with this, again, because he's an independently elected official, so you don't have authority to terminate or discipline or things like that. You can make recommendations. If you do find that there are certain things that if they're happening or not happening within an elected official's office, you can look at filing a petition with the governor for removal from office. If the electors don't think the job is being done, they can do a recall. I mean, somebody just talked about that earlier, but those are really the only options.
Mr. Chairman, is there such a thing as a vote of no confidence by the commission?
Not really.
Doesn't hold any weight.
I heard that was part of the process to take it to the governor's office.
I mean, I don't know that it's called specifically that. I think I heard that in Star Wars when I watched that movie. But yes, it's basically if you're looking at, and I can let you know what that criteria is. I don't have it off the top of my head.
It's a parliamentary
But it's
thing.
doing things you're not supposed to do. It's neglect of duty in office, things of that nature. And I can present that at the next meeting so that you have all of those things. But if you find, as these other items are coming forward, that there may be criteria that fits into that, you could look at that as an option. There's also an option of converting that office to an appointed office, but that, right now it's elected. And so if it were appointed, then you would be in charge of hiring or firing the person at the head. And then there are different things you could do then as well.
So with the
Right
elected
now-
position, would that term out then, or what would that process look like?
So I'd have to look into that and give you a step-by-step as to how that could be done. But typically, that entails public hearings and public meetings and getting the public's input on that as well, because of course, if you're taking that power away from the people to elect the person, one of the things to look at, though, is this is the person that's in charge of the finances for the county, and the criteria for the person running for office is that they be an elector, which means they have to live in Burley County and be at least 18 years old. But there's no other qualifications needed to handle the county's finances.
So is that a point of policy, or is it where we could make a policy change, or is it more complicated than that?
It basically
By
involves
century
a
code.
resolution
Okay.
by the commissioners to convert that. There's, again, you have to make, there's notices, there's public hearings that have to be done, but it's by resolution of the county commission.
Okay. Commissioner Munson?
Two questions, Chair. Julie, so you had made a comment that if this Hatch Act is found by the federal side of it, we could lose twice the salary of the auditor treasurer from what? From federal funding?
My understanding
2 years.
is from the grant, it's 2 years of his salary, so yes, twice his annual salary, from the grants or loans that we receive from the federal government.
And if we
I'm not-
lose that, can we ask him to pay for it?
I don't see anything in there that says that, because typically it is your choice. Now, this would not be your choice because he's elected. Because normally if it's an employee that does the violation, you have the choice to keep
Right.
them and then be penalized, or terminate them and then not be penalized. In this case, you don't really have a choice. You'd
Right.
be
We don't-
penalized.
We don't have a choice.
That's
we
if
get
the
penalized.
Office of Special Counsel
Right.
agreed with my assessment.
Right. We just lose the money.
Correct. And no, there isn't a way to force them to pay that back.
Okay.
Commissioner?
Is it within the power of the commission to take the investment, things on the investment side that we talked about briefly before, or at length, and for the time being, turn that over to the chief financial officer? Are we allowed to do that?
So I'll have to look at what the specific outlay is in the plan that the commission approved back in the 80s when it combined the Office of Auditor and Treasurer. Because by doing that, certain things were moved to certain offices, and that was approved by the public. And so we'd have to go by what's in that reorganization plan and by what's in statute. Because if it wasn't discussed in the reorganization plan, then we have to go by statute to do that. So I'd have to review that reorganization
Can
plan.
you do
I
that?
will.
Okay.
Commissioner Woodcox?
I know in the past, and you said that was back in the 80s, well, in the 90s and the 200s or 2000s, our finance department was doing all of our investing. It wasn't the auditor. The auditor had input, I think, and they both did it together, but our finance department did all that for a long time.
Well, they were
Is that in
talking.
error then?
They were talking about a policy that, there's an investment policy. I haven't seen that, so I don't know when that was implemented
Okay.
or how that was implemented, so,
We've got an investment policy. I know.
Yeah.
yep.
Make sure that you get a copy of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like the copy too.
So I think there's more information that we need. Next meeting, I would be entertained either tabling this till the next meeting or any other recommendations from the commission?
I'd go for tabling it.
Okay. Commissioner Woodcox?
Before I second that, I'm thinking that we have to move this up as fast as we possibly can, because we've got this investment side, which we're still going by the rules that I don't agree with, and several others don't either, but we've got to change that policy and change how we're doing it and who's doing it. That may come together, but I think we need to move both things together and move it up as soon as possible. Whether that's 2 weeks from now at our next meeting, or if we have to have a special meeting, I certainly would approve that, because and that meeting will be long, and it might be very disruptive, who knows? But it would still be a public meeting, I know that, but I think we should move this process along as fast as we possibly can.
Well, I think we'll know more on Wednesday.
Pardon me?
I think we'll know more on Wednesday on the investment side. Commissioner Schwab?
Wednesday.
Well, Wednesday I thought was just regarding the
Oh, yeah,
pipeline.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say.
If you
Yeah.
want to add that to the agenda, you certainly can, but I would recommend
No.
you figure
We
out
don't
what
have
your
time.
agenda for Wednesday's meeting is.
No, we'll leave
Okay.
that.
Julie, can we dissolve this investment committee? And just
Depends on how it was
start
set
over?
up.
She'll
I
have
mean,
to
do
look
we?
She'll look into that
Yep.
for us.
Technically, do we have the power to do that, like, say, at the next meeting?
It
Then we
depends,
can turn this over to the financial guys?
it depends on how it was set up.
Okay.
So I'll take a look at that and I'll have an answer for you next time.
Vice Chairman Bakken, if I might.
Treasurer, sure. Auditor, treasurer. Sure.
To my knowledge, and I have to review policy, there's no requirement for there to be the investment group to discuss these things. Commissioner Woodcox is correct. Historically speaking, this has been primarily ran by the finance director office in conjunction with the auditor, with his input at least. And if that's something that the commission wants to consider, that's something that whether you value my opinion or not, that's something that I would definitely be willing to discuss.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a
Second.
second? Any further discussion?
About the only piece that I can offer at this point is it's pretty damn disappointing we're sitting here talking about this. It's just wrong that we're here talking about this kind of conversation. I don't know what else to say. I'm dumbfounded.
It's an embarrassment.
It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
Any other input? Motion is to table this until we get more information from the state's.
Till the next meeting.
Yeah,
Next meeting.
yeah, till the next meeting, till where we'll have more information from the state's attorney. So, with that, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Schwab.
Yes.
Woodcox.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Bakken.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you, Julie. With that, I turn the meeting back over to Chair Bittner.
Very interesting conversation. Other business,
Yes.
this revolves around human services. Chelsea, go ahead, Commissioner Bakken.
So, because the legislature is starting to ramp up for the next session and funding involved with that runs a lot through one of the expiring terms for the board, wanted to have this conversation about reappointing a couple of commissioners for the board. I believe there's one expiring term that somebody's not asking for reappointment, and that'll go through the regular board process. But just because of the timeliness with the legislature and the funding that comes from the state, I thought this should be addressed now. So Chelsea?
Yeah, thank you. So for the record, Chelsea Flory, Burley County Human Service Zone Director, so your Social Service Department. Commissioner Bakken is correct. I have a couple of members whose term is expiring. They do 3-year terms on the zone board. And so one of my members, or two of my members who are expiring would be Senator Dick Devers. So one of my requirements is to have a elected legislator on my zone board. So he has served on that. He continues to serve, obviously, on but he works through the Appropriations Committee, which to Senator or Commissioner Bakken's point, it's a big sorry, it's a big contributor to the work that we do in human service zones and one of our partners that we do collaborate with. So his term is coming due, as well as a community member, Trevor Vanette. He has served on this board for quite some time now, and then his term is coming due on 12/1/2024 as well, both of those two. Both of those two have expressed interest in reappointment onto the board. Then the third member, her term expired, Leslie Piercy, on 11/30/2024. She did not want to reappoint to the board. So my request to Commissioner Bakken was to get before the commission and see if you would approve reappointment of Dick Dever and Trevor Vanette to the board, as well as opening Leslie's position up for application.
Move to approve.
One other piece to that too. So my term expires on 12/2 of 2024.
Oh, you're not getting out of it that easy.
Well, that was my
No, no.
question. If either on an interim basis, if you would like me to continue in that role, or if that gets reorganized after the first of the year, I'm good working in that capacity until then.
Is there a second?
Second, yeah.
A motion and a second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
We're reappointing the two you suggested?
Yes, yeah.
Correct.
Dick Dever and.
Yeah,
Trevor Vanette.
if portfolios change after the first of the year, so be it. If
Are we
not,
wrapping these together, these three then?
yeah.
Okay.
So just to clarify, you're approving then to reappoint those two
Dick Dever and Trevor Vanette.
and Trevor, and then to open
up.
Leslie's up for application, and then
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken will stay on until.
Yeah, she'll go through the
Okay.
regular application process, or that position will go through the regular application process.
Perfect.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Schwab?
Yes.
Woodcox?
Abstain.
Munson?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Always got to be.
Thank you,
one.
Chelsea.
It's gotta be one.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
It's always
for
the same one, though.
Anything else for the good of Burley
Pick on me
County?
and I didn't hear it.
Anything else for the good
I'll
of Burley
be,
County?
I'll be honest, I had problem
We
with
are
not
adjourned.
your- not
Thank
with
you.
Thank you.
I had problem with not with you or not of the other two, but one of the ones that are on there now, I won't vote for them.
That gets a lot of votes.